Hi, everybody, and welcome to this week's Ingles Furman Radio Network preview. It is our look at Saturday's huge Southern Conference matchup between the Furman Paladins and Samford Bulldogs down in Birmingham. I am Dan Scott, voice of the Paladins. Looking forward to having you with us on the broadcast on Saturday. We'll set that up for you in just a little bit. But also looking forward to spending the next few minutes with you to talk about what we expect to see in this matchup between these two very, very good football teams. And quite honestly, for the Samford Bulldogs, you look at their schedule, they're 3-3 overall, their record. They're 2-2 in Southern Conference play. They are playing unequivocally for their conference lives and their FCS playoff lives this week. And Furman knows a little bit about what that is like because after losing to Samford here last year, every week virtually was a playoff game for the Paladins moving forward. Interestingly enough, Furman has not lost a conference game since that controversial game here at Paladin Stadium 1 year ago. But Samford, another loss in conference, you can pretty much kiss an opportunity for a conference championship goodbye and most likely the playoffs as well. You look at their schedule after this game, they close out with VMI, Citadel, and Mercer in conference, and their final game is with UT Martin. So this is shaping up as a huge game for the Bulldogs. It's also a huge game for the number 4 ranked Furman Paladins, of course, because Furman still has everything it wants to play for this season on the table ahead of it, controlling its own destiny right now, and beginning a stretch of games, 3 of the next 4 on the road, and those 3 games against Samford this week, at Western Carolina next week, which suddenly is becoming the darling team maybe of all of FCS, and then after ETSU for homecoming here, going back out on the road to play Chattanooga. We're going to find out an awful lot about Clay Hendricks' team in the next 4 weeks, and it begins this Saturday down in Birmingham. The Paladins, of course, coming off of the 28-14 win over the Citadel, losing backup running back Jaquan Smith for the season to that knee injury. Good news is, as we saw in that game, Dominic Roberto is back, and Dom ran very well, the best that we've seen him run really all season long. Expect to see more of Wayne Anderson in the backfield as well this week, and looking for the explosive plays. And talking to Coach Clay Hendricks at the press conference on Tuesday and our conversations with not only him, but with offensive coordinator Justin Roper, still looking for those big plays that can pop something and really demoralize an opposing defense. It's been more of a grinding type of offense to a certain degree here over the last handful of weeks, and still looking for those big explosive plays. This would be a good time for that to happen. Look, we all remember what transpired here a year ago with the call that the league came out and did something I don't know that the Southern Conference has ever done, and issued a statement that the officials made an egregious error. We know that the head referee in that game resigned. That crew was disciplined. But what Clay Hendricks likes to point out is his team did not respond well to that. Everything was going Furman's way up to that point, and then from then on, they did not respond to the adversity. Turned it over 3 times. 2 of the fumbles were in Samford territory, and it just was not the type of response to adversity that the coach and the coaching staff wanted to see. From that point on, however, every time the Paladins faced adversity the rest of the season, they met it head on, overcame it, and put together a stretch run that we all will remember, taking them through the second round of the playoffs and that last second loss to Incarnate Word. So how will the Paladins fare on the road? Well, we'll find out against a talented Samford team that's played the bulk of the heavy games on its schedule already. And we, again, look at their record, 3-3 overall, 2-2 in the league. They have league wins over ETSU and Wofford. They have lost to Western Carolina and Chattanooga. So this game represents, if you're just looking at the standings and how the teams were predicted to finish pretty much in the preseason, this is the last of the heavyweights on their schedule. And as we mentioned for Furman, having already played Mercer, you're looking at the next 3 of the next 4 games all on the road as the heavy portion of the Paladin schedule. And I shouldn't say that Mercer's not a heavyweight still coming up on the Samford schedule, because they most certainly are. Taking a look at some of the numbers on this one, when we get into the number comparisons, you know that the Samford offense very well publicized. That we start with the series record. Furman holds a 1-game advantage in the series, 13-12, and of course you had the win that we talked about for the Bulldogs here at Paladin Stadium last year, 34-27. And you start doing some of the numbers comparison. Furman has a slight edge in points per game. You look at what Samford likes to do when it comes to throwing the football with Michael Hires. No surprise there, 307, almost 308 yards per game. On down the numbers, the one that really jumps off the page as you scroll through the defensive numbers and the rushing and passing yardage allowed and look at the comparison there, the one place that Furman has the most decided advantage is in the turnover margin. There's a 14-number swing between the turnover margins between these two teams. The Paladins are +8 after last week, taking it away 3 times and only giving it up once. And Samford is -6. Michael Hires, for all of the great numbers that he has put up, and we're talking about 6th in the country in completion percentage at almost 72%, 3rd in the country at completions per game at over 28.5. He's 1st in total passing yardage this season with already 1,768, 4th in passing yardage per game at 294.7. You can go on down the lines. This kid has put together a fantastic career at Samford. The one thing he's done this year that he had not done perhaps as much in previous seasons is turn the ball over. He's thrown 10 touchdown passes, but he has also thrown 7 interceptions. You take a look at the conference standings, and remember, in one of the preseason polls, Furman and Samford tied for the top spot, and Furman was a standalone in the other spot. Western Carolina right now 3-0, Furman 2-0. Those are the only 2 teams left undefeated in the league. Of course, Western still has 5 conference games. They are off this week ahead of their matchup with Furman next week, and the Paladins counting Saturday with 6 conference games remaining. Then Chattanooga 3-1, Mercer at 2-1, and then there's Samford right in the middle at 2-2. VMI's only played 2 conference games. They're 1-1, and the ETSU, the Citadel, and Wofford all still looking for their first conference victories of the season. The schedule this week, we mentioned that Western Carolina is off, so they get the bye week before Furman comes in next week. VMI is at the Citadel at 1 o'clock in Charleston. That's the old military classic of the South. Wofford at ETSU. That's a 3:30 kick. And then Chattanooga at Mercer, that is a 4 p.m. kick, and you go back to the standings and see Mercer sitting there at 2-1 and Chattanooga at 3-1. So one of those teams is going to suffer its second loss of the conference season in that head-to-head matchup. There's a lot of football yet to be played, but you can already see kind of the line of demarcation in this league. And from a Samford standpoint, Saturday's game is going to determine which side of the line they're on. If the Paladins win that game, then Samford will be in that lower tier and virtually no shot at a conference championship or the playoffs. If they win that game, those hopes stay alive, and they'll join either Mercer or Chattanooga as a 2-loss team, and Furman would drop into the 1-loss category. The Paladins have an opportunity to move, of course, to 3-0, and that would headline the matchup going into Western Carolina next week. In fact, I saw some stuff online this week where the Catamounts are mounting a campaign to try to get ESPN's College Game Day to Cullowhee for that game. Probably not going to happen, but they are a hyped bunch up there. Look, that is next week. The Paladins have to focus on the week in hand. It's going to be the biggest challenge, I think, to date for Dwayne Vaughn's defense, because you're going from a very deliberate offensive mindset, offensive tempo with the Citadel into this Samford team that likes to hurry it up. And Scott Keeler at the press conference this week, one of the writers who covers Furman, pointed out with the new rules that we have seen put in play this year to speed up games, by and large, teams are running fewer plays on average. Last week, Samford ran 87 plays, which is kind of amazing under the new rules. So you know Chris Hatcher, he wants to speed it up. He wants to go at that ultra-fast tempo. This is going to be a challenge for Dwayne Vaughn and his defense, and the defensive secondary that has, as we know, given up some big plays on deep balls. When you start looking at some of the individual numbers, we talked about Michael Hires and his passing numbers for Samford. Jay Staten leads them in rushing, 423 yards, 6 rushing touchdowns, averaging over 5.5 yards per rush. He also has 10 receptions on the season, one of those for a touchdown, and that's significant because his 10 receptions means that Samford has 7 receivers with double-digit catches in the offense. Chris Hatcher likes his quarterback to spread it around, and Michael Hires does that very, very well. Chandler Smith leads them with 38 catches, 3 of them for scores. Ty King with 29 and 2 touchdowns. Brendan Jenkins with 21 and also 2 touchdowns. But 7 players with double-digit receptions through their first 6 games. That is what Chris Hatcher does with his offense. So, look, it's going to be an intriguing matchup. The Paladins are going to be challenged, but you go back to what they were able to do a year ago and the success that this team had on the road. You just hope that the team is mentally ready. I mean, they should be. If not, quite honestly, there's something wrong. But you hope that they're mentally ready to go in there and meet this challenge and start this gauntlet of games, 3 of the next 4 on the road, and the 3 heaviest hitters still remaining on Furman's schedule, at least by the standings, are still in front of Furman, all on the road. They need to get off to a good start this week. We will see what transpires down in Birmingham. Looking forward to it. It's always a fun matchup. These teams have played some highly entertaining games over the last handful of years, and there's no reason to believe this one will not be another one. Just a reminder that our pregame show begins, the Pepsi Countdown to Kickoff, at 11:30 a.m. Eastern. That's 11:30 a.m. Furman time, with the kickoff at 1 p.m. At Seibert Stadium in Birmingham. The broadcast can be heard on 97.7 FM in Greenville, 97.1 in Spartanburg via the Fan Upstate, and online at Odyssey.com. And the Odyssey app, you can get that online just by going to FurmanPaladins.com to the schedule and click on Listen Live. It'll take you right to it. Game will be broadcast on ESPN Plus. As always, we invite you to watch it. Just turn the sound down and check out our broadcast. Tom Van Hoy will not be with us in the booth this week. Samuel Goodrow will be stepping in the spotter's role, but David Cobb and Marcus McMorris will be there, and we anticipate having a great broadcast of what should be, again, a very highly entertaining football game between the 4-1 Furman Paladins, ranked as high as 4th in the country, 2-0 in the league, against the Samford Bulldogs, 3 up and 3 down overall, 2-2 in the SoCon, and playing for their playoff and conference championship lives. They've got a lot on the line from a desperation standpoint as far as the standings go. Furman has a lot on the lines for continuing that march toward a conference championship and perhaps a first-round bye in the playoffs. It is going to be fun, and we look forward to having you on board with us for the matchup. We will talk to you live from Samford on Saturday. Again, the Pepsi Countdown to Kickoff coming up at 11:30 a.m. with the kickoff at 1 o'clock. Join us for for the broadcast if you can't make it to the stadium in Birmingham. We'll see you there. Once again, for all of us on the radio crew, this has been the Ingles Furman Radio Network preview. I'm Dan Scott saying God bless you and so long, everybody.